Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. In the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the Bedford Savannah Apartments in Brooklyn, New York, to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the Uncanny Chris.
And I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance, assemble. All right, volume 84. This is our penultimate episode before the big event.
It is. Just, I mean, this was a pretty big event, though. I mean,
True.
My coworker David's telling me yesterday, he's like, I'm 50 hours away. And I'm like, no, man, you got Hawkeye first. And of course, first thing we did this morning walking in, because we got there at the same time, was talking about Hawkeye. So
Of course. What better way to walk in? So how's the week been for you?
It's been all right. It's been interesting, but I'm just trying to get to this morning, and then as of the time we record this anyway, to Hawkeye morning, and then get through to Spider-Man tomorrow night at the time of this recording. And that's where my focus is. Hawkeye and then Spider-Man. I got one. Now let's move on to the next.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'll be already have seen it, probably working on show notes on top of packing for heading down to my in-laws' place in Florida, since this is the last week of school for us. So we'll be definitely looking forward to a little bit of a break. But don't just because I'm going somewhere, we will be back next week at a normally scheduled time. I will be back home. So
Perfect.
We can't abandon our fans and our listeners.
No, they don't like it when you're gone. So
no, they don't. Apparently, numbers prove that for some strange reason.
I mean, just one particular movie that had, whatever it is, just
whatever it is. But all right, let us get some network plugs out of the way. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 8 shows. On Mondays, we've got my show, World's Finest True Believers, alternating bi-weekly with Ranger Alliance. Ranger Alliance dropped a new episode this week, and so next week will be the last episode of World's Finest True Believers for 2021. A new guest will be joining me to look at a very seminal mini-series that has gotten a lot of acclaim over the last few years, had some Eisner Awards with it. So be on the lookout to your feeds for the preview tweet that's going to come to you Friday afternoon. And next is DC Alliance, then Superhero Discussion, Star Wars Alliance, Marvel Alliance, and a walk through the multiverse bi-weekly, and Slice of Film. And if you've been paying attention to Twitter, Katie and Slice of Film will be taking a little bit of a hiatus, do some retooling around. But for those big movies that the big 3 shows do not carry, she will be back doing those movies. So check that out as well. DC Alliance goes live on Monday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Star Wars Alliance goes live on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this show goes typically live on Thursday nights at 9:10 Eastern Standard Time on the Geekverse Podcast YouTube channel. So make sure you check those out. And all 3 of those feeds have their own solo podcast platform. So if you want to check those out, if you want to just check out those individual shows, or subscribe to the GUA feed on your podcast app of choice, if you want to get all the great stuff, we really appreciate it. We do have a Patreon, so we want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. We have 2 tiers, $1 tier is our tip jar to say, hey, we're doing a good job. And then we got our $5 tier that gives you ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive episodes. So again, thank you, patrons. We can't do this without your support. And then, as always, we have to thank our official sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. Use that code MarvelGeo at checkout for $2 off every single order for all your omnibus, hardcover, collected edition needs. At the time of recording, the last part of the final order cutoff will be a day and a half away. So a new group of solicits and some pretty big Marvel solicits will probably be dropping this weekend on Organic Price Books. So again, use that code MarvelGeo at checkout for every single order, unlimited amount of times. Thank you, JP, and all the credit OPB. We greatly appreciate it. And as we said, our penultimate episode before the big event. Brent, what is this big event that is coming Friday night for us?
Oh, it's just a little review for just a tiny movie. It's probably not going to do very good this year, but we're gonna give the indie movie some love and attention. Something by the way of Spider-Man: No Way Home. We will be reviewing, and of course, we have some of our friends from the network who will be joining us. Are we revealing those names tonight, or are we waiting until the moment of?
Yep. Well, I can't remember if we revealed it last week, but
I don't
we'll do.
remember.
I don't remember, but we'll do it again. Yes, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. We go live on the Geekverse YouTube channel, doing our big review, and it's probably one of our largest groups to come on since we started these reviews this year. And again, it's just there was sometimes doubts if this movie would come out this year. We're very happy to say we are less at this time of recording, as we said, less than 24 hours away from preview night. And so we have a big crew coming on. We have Travis Hines, Clay, Joe, and making his debut on a Marvel Alliance movie review, that would be my former co-host, Travis Snell, will be joining us. So we'll hopefully Travis and Clay can get along being in the same chat.
You know what? I think we did reveal that because I remember talking about being glad that Snell was going to work out to join. But you know what? Yeah, you're right. Snell and Clay will be fine. Then maybe not if it was this Hawkeye episode, but there's no Yelena around as far as we know. Spider-Man No Way Home, so they'll be fine.
Yeah, but we're gonna talk a lot of Yelena, so hopefully it'll be okay at that point, because I'm sorry, she's just delightful.
Absolutely.
So again, check that out. We'll go live Friday night. So if you can't watch us live or on YouTube later on, it'll be there on YouTube later on if you want to watch it live, or you can wait until Saturday morning when it drops in your feeds. It's going to be a very, very interesting, and I'm anticipating a very good chat. So again, thank you all for checking that out. And so let us get into Hawkeye episode 5, titled Ronin. So this was going to be supposedly the episode that we've been waiting for. You know, we'll get to that big reveal moment at that point, but non-spoiler thoughts first.
Well, yeah, there is that big reveal. And what's awesome is, even without that moment, is a great episode. Mm-hmm. So much good stuff in this episode. The character work, the character interactions that we were able to get, people, just conversations, right? There, you know, I keep my list of like favorite non-action scenes, and there's a scene in this that made the cut. It made it onto the list, and not every episode does that, but this would be one that made it, and you'll probably know what it is already, but just in general, the episode gave me so much of what I was hoping to see, so much. I feel like the story, like there were a lot of threads, you know, and now I feel like they're starting to tie off and get brought together in a way that I am really excited to see what happens next week.
And especially with that, you like you said, the one thing the show's done so well with is those character moments. And I think, you know, with some of those, I wouldn't say criticisms, but some differences that people have with the show is that, there's, you know, the action beats, does not action, and just, you know, but it's different from Loki in the sense of Loki did have a lot of character moments, but this is a very kind of different character development of just, you know, it's a different kind of buddy cop thing than what we had in Falcon Winter Soldier. It's, again, as I said, legacy, someone who's looked up to Clint all her life and is finally getting to understanding what is going on, what it means to be a hero that she potentially wants to be. And so understanding about what is, you know, I would say peeling back the truth behind what is really going on besides the what you see in the press versus what's really going on is quite fascinating for us to see.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it earlier, and it feels like, I mean, if I'm being honest, episode 3, which was more action heavy, is probably still my favorite episode of the show. But I feel like the show is making a really good use of action. They're not just using action scenes to fill time. They're not just extending fight scenes to fill time. It feels like they have a purpose. And there is one scene, the scene that made the cut for me, that could have easily devolved into an action scene. And I feel like under lesser writers, it might have just gone down to being an action scene. Instead, you know, all those times when we're like, if these two people would just have a conversation, it's like they had the conversation, and I think it redirected the way the show was going. So just incredible episode.
Oh yeah, no, very good. So let us take our kind of first ad break before we get into the spoilers at that point. So if you haven't seen Hawkeye, you know, pause right here, give and then come back to us when you have watched it. But as you know, listeners, these ads can help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, so let us get into all the fun, all the enjoyment of this episode. So this opened probably the most unique opening of them that has nothing to do with Clint, has nothing to do with Kate. We are focusing on Yelena in 2018. And the audio we hear at the opening as we're kind of panning through what is going on is, from Black Widow.
Mm-hmm. I actually think this is an extraordinarily rare opening. I'll explain in a couple minutes probably, but so much so that I think it did something that I'm not sure I've ever seen in any television show ever with how this show opened today. And it really kind of threw me off at first. But yeah, so we've got this flashback. It's 2018. We what happened in 2018? Oh, well, Black Panther happened in 2018. Well, kind of. And the Black Panther, I mean, the movie, obviously the movie itself was set earlier. And then Infinity War happened in the actual year 2018. And sure enough, we see Yelena, this would be post Black Widow, doing what she set out to do at the end of that movie. She's trying to free the other widows. She had one with her whom I tried finding out if that one was in the Black Widow movie, and I couldn't find definitively out.
Her name is Sonya.
Yeah, and IMDb did not list her as being in Black Widow, but IMDb user editable at times, and maybe it just wasn't up to. I don't know, and I didn't go back and look at the Black Widow, like pull up the movie and look at the credits and stuff. I probably should have, but regardless, they're trying to take out and stop this other widow named Anna, and they get her and they put it, do the whole magical dust stuff to break her free, and finds out she's already free. I'm curious as to how, but basically she's already doing her own thing. She is not under any kind of spell from Dreykov or anything else. And cool opening, it was fun to see that Yelena was back. And I noticed she did have a vest, of course, but it was a new vest because she gave the old vest to Natasha.
Did it have pockets? That was the key thing.
I mean, if it didn't have pockets, why even bother, right?
I know. Yeah. I mean, that's very important, so it's interesting to see a widow that, didn't have any needing to be deprogrammed at that point, because when they do the antidote at that point, she's like, oh, she gets all ticks, like, what are you doing? Why are you ruining my like
$20,000 rug?
Yeah, $20,000 rug. So, it's an interesting kind of, all right, well, I guess not all of them were programmed, and it turned out like she's been a gun for hire. And so, after they're all talking, and Yelena's kind of wrestling with being apart from Natasha, and they joke about, oh, you should meet up with Natasha in New York, have your quote unquote Sex in the City experience. And then Yelena goes off and to wash up, and we get, for the first time ever in the MCU, now we've seen the after effects of the blip, right, most recently with WandaVision with Monica. This is a different kind of, slightly different experience. We have not seen what those going into the blip come right back out of the blip. And that was pretty, not as chaotic as we saw Monica coming back from, but just like literally like 5 years happened. It seemed like instantaneous for them.
Yeah, it was really cool the way they did it with Yelena. She snaps away and comes back, and as she blips back, the room seemed to go through its own little blip because time had changed for her, and like the room suddenly was repainted a different color, the bathroom she was in. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, okay, so Monica we only saw the after effects. We only saw her come back, and it was like I don't think everybody had the exact same experience. I think they all had roughly the same thing.
Yeah.
But like Yelena seemed to be very fast. She blipped and is immediately right back, right? Whereas if you think back to Infinity War, when Bucky blips or when Bucky got snapped, it wasn't like everybody snapped at the exact same time. It was like a wave of people around. And I don't know. I mean, some of that's just for storytelling effect. but it still was interesting to me. But I love this scene. I love the way that Yelena, she was just talking about Natasha. She gets snapped. She blips back. She's talking about Natasha again. Where's Natasha? I got to find her. And that's when her friend Anna, because she still lived there, had to break the bad news to her. And so we now have just a little bit of times like,
well, did she really break the bad news? She just kind of looked for her and nothing was ever said. So.
I mean, it sure looked like she was going to be.
Yeah.
Like she was going to lead into it. And so regardless, we know that this scene was set, I mean, pretty much has to be set prior to the events of the post-credit scene in Black Widow when Don't Call Her Val shows up to send her on her mission.
Yeah, and so that's going to be another interesting discussion once we get to the end of the episode. But yeah, then we don't even transition to the title credit. We go to previously on.
So and that's the thing that is so weird that I cannot remember ever seeing, where you actually have a cold open and then the previously on, right? Like it was really cold open, the Marvel fanfare, and then the previously on. Such a weird, I mean, everything about it seemed weird. Almost to the point where I wondered if someone like messed up the edit, the timeline. But, at the same time, it was, let's do all the stuff set in the past, and then we're going to move on up to the future. Maybe I just missed it in the earlier, like in the episode with Maya as when we see her past. But I don't remember the previously on being after the episode started. No big deal. Just kind of threw me. And I was really just listening to that previously on for one word anyway, which was not in it, and that word was uncle. Thought for sure we were going to see a repeat of the times when they've mentioned uncle. But either way, it's fine. It doesn't hurt the story. It was just unexpected.
Yeah, and interesting, and giving a shout out to our Geekverse brethren that reviewed the episode. I believe it was Kirkland that said, and if it wasn't one of the boys at that point, that's brought up that considering how this cold open was, should this have been one of the post-credit scenes in Black Widow instead of opening like this?
I think that was Kirkland, yeah. And okay. I don't think so, personally. I think that's telling too much. I kind of like the mystery of we don't know Yelena's situation, but I liked the post-credit scene there. It teased her next appearance. She's going to be doing something with Hawkeye. To me, that's what the post-credit scene was supposed to accomplish, and it did that.
Yep. Yeah, it was. I never even thought about it like that, but it was an interesting kind of thought. But when we do get to when it says Hawkeye, as I talked about last week, there were no arrows going to the middle. So, and as you watch the episode until the very end, Clint and Kate are not working together.
Right, and one might argue that it's really more Ronan than Hawkeye who's active.
So Kate, Kate returns home, and Eleanor, and basically after Clint says, "Get out of here," forget about me. And so they kind of have, they have a kind of a nice mother-daughter moment as she's cleaning her up. Eleanor wants her to steer clear of the superhero stuff because because I personally think she's doing it because she doesn't want to hurt her daughter, as she's directly involved with what's going on. Then Kate reveals that they've been looking into the death of Ronan, and that Jack, based on what she found on her laptop, again, keyword, this was Eleanor's laptop, that she found Jack might be possibly involved, and asked her just to look into it. And she says, "Okay, I will."
Yeah, she didn't seem very surprised.
Yeah.
Like, of course, we have suspected Eleanor really since the first episode, I think. And so definitely since the second one at a minimum. And I don't think we are surprised, but Eleanor presumably playing a part, right? Like pretending. I don't know. I would have expected a little more of a even fake shock and awe.
And I was like,
accusations that Kate's levying against her fiance.
Yeah, it's like, how dare you accuse it? Like, not even trying to defend it. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll finally look into it. And then it's an interesting juxtaposition because we go from this kind of, for the most part, touching scene between mother and daughter to Ekko and Qazi, who it's an interesting contrast because they are been having, since kind of we got introduced to both of them, been having disagreements about what's going on. And, they're not open with each other. And, I think that's just because of who they are and what they've been brought up as, which is basically kind of, want to call it mercenaries, hitmen, soldiers. It's very different kind of interaction.
Yeah, and I kind of like how they're not just like jumping to like a romantic interaction. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
I've wondered, but that's not really what it's about. And they haven't really shown us that. And maybe it's purely a platonic thing. But either way, they have a connection, which later is gonna bite Maya. But they have a connection, and I do enjoy their scenes.
Hmm. And, along with that, so, she basically saying, she's not going to give it up. And, basically Kazi saying, okay, once you kill Ronan, we'd be done with this. We move on. We focus on what we need to be doing. She kind of agrees to that. Kate returns to her apartment and very much destroyed from the fire, wandering about. And she has a surprise guest that shows up and has been waiting for her. And who is her guest?
Yelena is there. She just wanted some macaroni. She was hungry. Um, and it just starts this whole, I don't know, fascinating conversation between these two women. And right off the bat, Yelena's like, "Are you sure you're not hungry? That fight was really long." And it's like
And I've
they're
been waiting here.
like they're using Yelena as like this proxy for like regular people, like in Black Widow, she's like, well, I need some ibuprofen or whatever it was. And now she's just talking about like, I need food, I need energy because I used so much in that fight. She's awesome.
Yeah, and again, I will join Travis and Kirkland as a Pew boy at that point. I really much enjoy Florence Pugh, but Yelena, she owns this scene, and she doubles down on her kind of little bit of folksy, just fascinated, like her youth. I loved it in Black Widow, and I really enjoyed it here because she doubles down on the whole thing, just like, oh, she basically said, if I wanted to kill you, you wouldn't be walking through the door. And she just wants to
Yeah.
talk. Like she's trying to be her bestie. She wants to kind of hang out. She tells Kate to eat because her dad said it's good for her. She says she wants to see the Empire State Building, Rockefeller Center. And I love this little drop, the new and
Mhm.
improved Statue of Liberty.
Yep, little tie into a trailer of that one. This is the scene that made the cut of some of my favorite scenes that are not
Mhm.
action. And I was just thinking about it, and just the way that like Yelena clearly is driving the conversation. Like Kate's trying her best to keep up, and I don't necessarily mean Haley Steinfeld's not able to keep up with Florence Pugh. I just mean like the character Kate is trying to keep up, and Yelena even calls her out on it. Like, why are you trying to act not surprised? Like, we both know you didn't know that. Like,
Mhm.
you're surprised. And I tell you, when I first left the Avengers in 2012, the first time I saw that movie, I thought Hawkeye Black Widow movie, that'd be pretty cool. Now I'm thinking a Hawkeye Black Widow movie would be pretty cool, but the 2.0 versions, the new ones.
Yeah, it definitely, they are playing that up really hard to say that this will be a nice little team up that we can kind of keep on revisiting. And she said she loves American Christmas, which, if you remember back to the Black Widow kind of opening scene, you saw them, her parents, her quote unquote fake parents, uh, staging the family staging having those Christmas scenes with them. And so
Right.
even though she knows it was staged, she knows it wasn't real, she really does enjoy it. And Elena shows, even like it's interesting when she's having this nice conversation, and then Elena drops these kind of, oh, you're really a spy at that point, saying, oh, she keeps on calling, why do you keep calling me Kate Bishop? You've been watching me? So, oh yeah, I know a lot about you. And she talks about her family, talks about her grades, and then says, oh yeah, and I thought it was really nice that you went into traffic and rescued that dog. I mean, you went up a few points. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that comes off kind of creepy and just like, huh, yeah, she social dynamics with Yelena, like she's trying really hard, but it's still, she leans into the, I'm a foreigner in this land, and I'm still trying to figure things out.
I appreciated the callback to her getting the dog in Black Widow. She wanted to
Mhm.
have a dog. She finally got her dog. She named her after Natasha, of course. And then she's like, "Oh, you saved a dog. You get bonus points." I
Yep.
maybe she didn't go so far as to say that's the only reason you're alive, but maybe.
Maybe. And then we get a quick transition to Clint. We get another visit of Grill, so he's going to go hang out at Grill's apartment, and then we quickly go back to Yelena and Kate. And Yelena says she really doesn't know, basically trying to tell her, you really don't know Clint. He's killed a lot of people. He's not a hero. And I like this quote for her because I think it's really telling. We are defined by what we do, not by nice words.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back, like people say, he's an Avenger. What does that mean? You don't, he was something else before he became a quote unquote an Avenger. And obviously, after the blip, he was something completely different than what the public ever knows. And she asked Kate where he is, and Kate says she doesn't know. So basically says, fine, thanks. I like she said, thanks for the girls' night and stay out of my way. But during that time, she kind of they had that conversation like, who hired you? And she claims she doesn't know.
Yeah, and Kate basically tells her, if you don't know who hired you to kill this person, he's a good man. You might want to look into it.
Mm-hmm.
They had a conversation, and sure enough, Yelena says, okay, I will. And at the end of the episode, she does look into it.
Yeah. And then we transition back to Grills and Clint, and Grills says, hey, his friend dropped off the new outfits, but Clint doesn't want to open it up because, again, we got one more episode, so we got to have that big reveal of these new outfits.
That is the Marvel TV way.
Final episode.
That is how
new
they
outfits.
Do it.
Yeah,
all the way back to Daredevil, right? All the way back to Daredevil. Do it at the end.
Did we get new outfits in Loki? I don't think we got new outfits.
Not really, but he doesn't really have that kind of costume.
True.
We've seen his costume several times before.
Quite true. Then Kate returns home to find Jack getting arrested because Eleanor has turned him in, and his dialogue is just great. Yeah, saying, I swear I didn't do it. I haven't worked a day in my life, which I can believe.
Uh-huh.
And he understands why Eleanor did it, and it basically says he's been framed, but once he clears this up, he'll be back as he's looking forward to the Christmas party.
Yeah, the Christmas party that they were still trying to plan 2 days before Christmas. Kate seemed more broken up about this than Eleanor did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, Jack, you're such a patsy and you don't even know it.
Mm-hmm. And again, my theory still holds, like, he is a patsy, but he does have a little dirt on him. And I still am holding out the idea that Eleanor really is going to become our Madam Mask for the MCU, or at least kind of like obviously she's already heading down the evil path. Why not give her a supervillain name?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it transitions to Clint at, the marker for the Battle of New York, commemorating where the Avengers first assembled, listing all their names, which was interesting. And I like how he takes out his hearing aid, shutting them all from the world, just to have a conversation with with Natasha, sorry. And like, it's almost like he's doing it like this is her gravesite, because he does. I mean, we know she has a gravesite from the end of Black Widow, but obviously
there's nothing in it.
Yeah, there's nothing in it. And so this is the best thing that he can do. And, you see throughout this series, like, he has been reliving her death over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
this was a really touching moment as he apologizes for what he's going to do.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to do it. He feels like he's dishonoring her memory because she brought him back from being Ronin to begin with, and then she sacrificed herself partly for him to live. And he feels like he's dishonoring that. And I get it. And of course, we all know she would 100% understand and probably agree with him. You have to take it to them. You have to take Maya out. But still, it was a really touching moment to see this.
Oh, yeah. And we transition to Kate waking up and begins to kind of look around the room and starts leaving message after message after message for Clint, talking about Yelena, Jack. I love it when she flicks the metal at something and breaks it. So, again, this is going to come back. The final episode, she's going to either take out someone from the Tracksuit Mafia or take out Qazi. Those are my two theories.
Yeah, I mean, they've shown it twice now, right?
Yep.
They got to show it one more time.
They're gearing up for this. So then we have a nice little scene with our bros, our Tracksuit Mafia brethren, listening to Run DMC's Christmas in Hollis. And they're doing this whole thing, talk about tracksuits being up with famous people wearing them, which Run DMC did wear tracksuits. Talk about Tommy Smith from the Olympics in the movie Royal Tenenbaums and Tony Soprano.
Yes. Pretty great scene, pretty funny. And of course, they were startled by an arrow that only went so far in, luckily for them, but was really just to deliver a message from Maya. And I loved, they're like, Maya, meet me, where you first met Ronan. And they're like, but we're not Maya. So good.
I'm glad they can figure that out. Then Clint calls Laura to tell her that he needs to end this tonight before the big guy gets involved. And we still don't know. We kind of mentioned this last week. We still don't know if she is connected to the Watch, and is she supposed to be this newer MCU version of Mockingbird, who, Tony did make a joke in the Age of Ultron movie that when they first met her, that he says, "Oh, I thought she was just an agent and this whole thing was a play."
Turns out part right, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And in the comics, Mockingjay does fake her death in order to return to a civilian life, which could be on the Watch. And she does change her name from Barbara to Laura. They do, as we go through this comics, have revealed that Mockingbird does. They do get divorced. So I hope that doesn't happen in this version.
She was also taken over by a Skrull before
That's
Secret
true.
Invasion.
Up, could be a Skrull. We're going to start going down. It's not going to be Mephisto.
Mephisto
Skrull confirmed. But Laura does say that she trusts him and says he has to do whatever he needs to do to protect the family.
Yeah, of course. So, I trust your judgment.
Family.
Hashtag family. I'm not giving you permission. Go do what you have to do.
As we go down this, hey, speaking of hashtag family, this is in a car lot too. Fatman Auto Repair.
Fatman Auto Repair, the best used car lot there is.
But you gotta find a new meme out there, Brent, for Fast and Furious with this.
There should be somebody in there. That somebody needs to make one. Definitely.
Somebody does that. Somebody DM us that because we need that, and Brent needs a new one for his thread.
That's right.
So Clint dons the mask of Ronin again, takes out Qazi as he's trying to position himself as a sniper very easily. Easily takes down all the tracksuit guys that are there. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Batman Begins.
Oh yeah, like he definitely did his Batman impression. Call it what it is.
Yep, without the bear-like voice.
Right.
And then fights Maya. Good fight. I liked how she was using the ammo casing to kind of start it all off, and he does take her down, and has a very frank conversation with her, not only revealing himself, basically tells her to back off and don't come after his family, or else this will be the last face she sees. And he mentions the fact that they're both weapons, they're used by others, and that the big reveal right here, that he was tipped off by an informant that works for her boss, and that her boss wanted her father dead.
Right. So were you immediately thinking of Qazi also? Because that's who I thought.
I thought Qazi, but it also brought up my idea that I've been pitching for the last few episodes, that Kingpin was using Ronin to further his stuff. So again, hashtag Chris told you, and I'm glad I was proven right on this, because that is what Kingpin does. That is what Wilson Fisk has always done. Take a problem and turn it into an opportunity to further his takeover.
Yeah, and absolutely. And they talk for a couple minutes, and then Maya gets the drop on her, and that's when Kate shows up. And she just Kate afterwards, they drive off. Maya, Kate's like, "You want to know how I found you? Well, the same way you found me 3 episodes ago. You tracked my phone." Yeah. But I love that they called an Uber for their escape route.
I know. Yeah, Aaron and I just watched it before recording, and she's just like, "Man, I feel bad for that Uber driver that he doesn't know what he's getting into."
Yeah, he probably just got his name on a list somewhere.
Yep, exactly. And so Maya, it flashes back to Maya and Qazi, and she very much has taken what Clint says to heart, and she basically corners him out of the blue and asks him, where was he that night father was killed? And he says he never got a call for being at the meeting, and wonders where that question is coming from. It is very clear that if he's not the informant, Fisk wanted him out of the way because he knew it was about to go down, because obviously he leaked it to the so-called informant, and wanted, Qazi being his number 2 to fill that position, since Maya was still, Maya may have not been a number 1 ready at that point.
Yeah, it's like Fisk was running a hostile takeover.
Mhm. Very much. And so, she goes off on her motorcycle, and if Kazi's has any sort of intelligence, he's probably his next phone call is to the big guy to say something's going on with Maya.
The big guy. Yes.
And so Kate tells Clint about Yelena, and then we see a scene of Yelena following Eleanor, and then Clint and goes back to Kate and Clint having food at grills, and then Kate gets this unknown voice message that we kind of quickly figure out is from Yelena, that she found out Eleanor hired her to kill Clint and sends her a photo once and for all, confirming that Eleanor was talking to Wilson Fisk. And Clint says she asks who this is that's who I was worried about finding out, and calls him the Kingpin.
Yes. Vincent D'onofrio is officially no asterisks, no room for subjectiveness. He's officially in the MCU. He is in a project with the Marvel Studios logo on it.
Yep, Marvel Studios.
Finally.
Say what you say about the Netflix series, it was amazing with its own right, but this is what we're going to officially canonize. He is in the credits at the end, ends with "You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch," with that at the very last end. If you did not stay through the credits, there was no end credit scene, but it is very much worth it, not just to see Vincent D'Onofrio's name in the end credits, but the final title card, what we've seen Kate and Clint on the rooftop, it is now silhouetted with Kingpin.
Yes, and I was so excited when this happened, when I saw this, and I'm like, just watching through the credits. I'm like, just show me that sweet name, Vincent D'Onofrio. There he is. It's just so good to see it. And is this did I expect more? Yeah, honestly, I did. I figured we'd get like a scene that'll come next week. We still saw him. We saw him. He's in the credits. He's there. He's part of the MCU. And there's still questions to be had,
especially that photo looking like it's something from out of the No Way Home leaks.
Yeah, no joke. Yelena, up your phone. But one, I feel like every single character we meet from here on out, we will be asking at some point, did they get snapped or not? And two, what exactly is his continuity situation? Is this the J.K. Simmons route where he's playing the same character but different interpretation, or are they bringing in the Netflix backstory? And again, I don't know what the legalities of that are as far as the story elements, but either way, they brought in a phenomenal actor who we already know can play the part just beautifully, and he's back.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was proved last week when we talked about the news that was officially confirmed by Sean O'Connell that if Daredevil is to return into the MCU, it will be cast by Charlie Cox, just like Kingpin is played by Vincent D'Onofrio. It's not just listen to the fans. It's Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, understanding that sometimes, even if legacy characters were not quote unquote canonized to begin with, some actors and actresses just do so good of a part, it's hard for us to see them as anyone else at this time.
It is kind of funny. I was looking through the Hawkeye hashtags and saw so many people saying, yes, Netflix is canon. There it is. And I'm like, they didn't say that yet. They might. We might find out that it is. We very well might. And if it is, okay, that's great. But
yeah,
not yet. But for me, like, he was one of them I wanted to see. And I was talking with my friend Brock, and I was like, this was yesterday. So before either of us had watched the episode. And I said, if we see Fisk in this week, that ups the chances of seeing Charlie Cox, in my opinion, in Spider-Man. If we don't see Fisk this week, but we still happen to see Charlie Cox in Spider-Man, well, that ups the chances of seeing him next week on Hawkeye. Well, we saw Fisk, so he's there. That ups the chances of Charlie Cox or Matt Murdock. Perfect. Like, so exciting. And it's like, yes, part of me was like, kind of like, wait a minute, we're getting to the end of the episode and we haven't seen him yet. So maybe that's not actually going to happen. At least it was a really good episode, even without it.
Oh yeah, it's just, again, we do this show, so it's something that we've been anticipating. We talked about the rumors of it, we've discussed it. So we say, oh, well, isn't it anticlimactic? I don't view it as that for myself, because even when I'm going to No Way Home, we've talked about the rumors. We've talked about Toby and Andrew and some other characters at that point coming in. It's getting to finally see it on screen, because I was talking to you this morning. there were articles coming out, from places like Entertainment Weekly and other like decent, you know, tier, not necessarily scoopers, but blogs that were starting to push the story of like, what if Uncle is really, Kate's not Kate's husband, Kate's Kate's dad, that really didn't die and he's Uncle and this is a whole play. I was like, no, I don't want this doubt slipping into me. And I just a little bit, I was like, oh, please don't do this because again, I don't want to have that, Ralph Boner moment at that point, take it away. But what it was just a moment fleeting, but I said it too good and too much smoke, especially with Vincent D'onofrio and his lovely tweets since Hawkeye began. It's just like, it's just finally a sigh of relief, but seeing hopefully a little bit more next week, just a little bit more. I don't need to see a whole episode with Kingpin, just a little live action scene will wet my whistle for what will be Ekko. Because again, my prediction for next episode, Clint's going to reveal the truth to Yelena about what really happened to her sister. Kingpin is going to continue to be set up for the Ekko series. Kingpin is going to be this growing figure for the MCU in a different way. And I know we have a question, I think, from our buddy Clay about this, but Ekko will learn the truth. Ekko, I think, is going to learn the truth about this, work with the heroes, and then by the end, take on the Ronin mantle as we head into her series.
Yeah, Brock was telling me how he didn't want to get Mephisto'd again. He's like, I fell for it once. They're not getting me again. He's like, I hope he's in it, but I don't believe he will be. So he texted me today and was very happy that indeed Wilson Fisk was a part of it. And
you gotta have faith. You gotta have just a little bit of faith.
I feel like if you look back, and if you really look at it, there is way more evidence of Wilson Fisk and Vincent D'Onofrio's arrival than there ever was for Mephisto. Not even close. And I'm not saying there was nothing for Mephisto. There was, but not the same way. So either way, he's here. It's fantastic. Let's do Clay's question. He said, there's rumors that the watch is connected to Tony and will inevitably make its way to Riri. Could Fisk make his way into being a villain everyone in the MCU will encounter a la Avengers level threat, or just stay street level? I would say, one, I haven't seen those rumors, but I've seen speculation. Not the same thing, but I have seen fan speculation of that. I don't know. Maybe that would be a way that Ironheart, would get a Tony Stark AI or something. But the thing is the way that Clint said that the owner of that watch had been out of the game for a while and they're still undercover. I don't think it's Tony's. I mean, yeah. Tony's out of maybe tangentially through Pepper, but Tony was never undercover. From the very last shot of his first movie, all the way to, calling out Trevor Slattery on TV and Iron Man 3, he was never undercover. Everybody knew who Iron Man was. So if it's Tony, I will be very, very surprised. And that I would take that as a little bit of a negative unless they told a heck of a story with it. Even in death,
I'm still the hero.
Well, Edith indeed, but regarding the second question, could Fisk be a villain for everybody? Yeah, absolutely he can be. Now, one thing I just kind of speculated wondering is I wonder if they, with Secret Invasion coming up and with Norman Osborn still being held firmly by the Sony side of things, I wonder if Kingpin could maybe turn into a kind of assume some of the Norman Osborn role that came out of Secret Invasion and led into Dark Reign. And so, because it does feel like they're setting up the Thunderbolts, we don't know for sure, but maybe Kingpin would be involved in that. Just a little bit of wild speculation. But even if he just remained street level, that's fine as long as one of those streets includes Spider-Man at some point.
Yeah, I think, obviously Daredevil, obviously Ekko, Spider-Man, I think, again, the links there. You look at it in the comics, Wilson Fisk has never been about, quote unquote, taking over the world. He's not necessarily the mustache twirly. He is quite happy controlling New York City, but knowing enough about the outside world to really understand it. But he's not a Dr. Doom. He's a very different kind of criminal in that he wants to control his little neck of the woods. Stay out of my neck of the woods and I'll leave you alone. But I don't care who you are. I'll take you down. So I like that he can be a growing threat for our street levels and have his hands in other. But I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever equate, and I'm fine with, and I don't necessarily think I need a Kingpin being a Avengers level threat. Now, for those of you that are staying up to date, I highly suggest, it dropped last week, the Dark Reign event, spinning out a Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky. That first issue was Kingpin's making a big play, and I would say that's what he's doing in that first issue would make him an Avengers level threat.
Interesting.
I'll just leave it as that. What he's doing is definitely Avengers level.
I will read that in 3 months.
Yep.
I actually have a new Daredevil issue right now that I still need to read that I haven't had time to get to. But regardless, I want more of him. But just thinking about like those characters you named off, obviously I want to see the Punisher, but just the characters we know about, Ekko, Spider-Man, maybe Moon Knight, right? Like I could see a Moon Knight throwing down with him because Moon Knight isn't always supernatural. Sometimes, often, but not always. There's so much potential here, and I don't know if we're going to see Vincent D'onofrio on the big screen or not, but it doesn't matter. It's MCU, and that's what I wanted.
Yeah, and again, the watch, I'm with you. I'm more and more with you now that Tony doesn't make sense anymore. If it ends up being lore, cool. I like to know what's exactly connected to that watch. So we'll just have to see next week. Yeah, it's gonna be the big episode. How many things we're gonna tie up? What are we setting up? Are we gonna see a season 2 and it's gonna be linked to Kate more than anything? I think I would like that, but I do not. I think you and I have been talking about it. At the end of the series, the end of the season will be Clint will make it home to his family. Kate will be with him, and they'll have a happy Merry Christmas.
Yes, and I'm really hoping for a repeat of what happened after the credits of Loki episode 6, where it wasn't really a scene, which, yeah, sure, I want an actual scene. I always want a scene, but where we see that season 2 official announcement. I would love to see Kate will return in Hawkeye season 2, or Clint will return, or Hawkeye will return, or Hawkeyes with an S on the end will return. Just give us a season 2 announcement. Like I'm really hoping for that.
Yeah, so we'll see what we get next week, and we'll come to you at a regularly scheduled live time on Thursday night. So, but all right, so let us take our last ad break before we get into Comic Book Club with Hawkeye issues 15 and 16, and then we'll bring the episode to a close. So, all right, listeners, these ads, keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We're gonna, turn down that volume, keep that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. Okay, so we've got Hawkeye issues 15 and 16 this week. So we're gonna start off with a Clint Barton focused one and then a Kate Bishop focused one. So let's start off with number 15 with Clint. And this is I definitely like this issue more than I did the other one.
I would agree with that, and part of that, which isn't maybe as fair to the other one, is when this one ended, I wanted to read the next one. I wanted the next part of this story, but they had some cool nonlinear storytelling in this, and I did appreciate that. And just seeing Clint and his brother, and Clown saying we need to just kill Hawkeye. He's not going to the police. He's not going to go to the police. Let's just go show up, roll up there, and kill him. And they certainly give it their best shot. It was cool to see the Barton brothers bashing their way, if you will, through all the bros. How many B's can we go with? I did really enjoy seeing that, and it's just another good one. I mean, the episode or the issue was titled Fun and Games, and I'd say it felt pretty fun for the most part up until those last page or two.
Yeah, especially saying I got a magic trick and I got my pants down. You got to shout it out. What's the magic word? Abracadabra? No, you got to say it's Barney. It's Barney. It's screaming it out, and Barney throws a trash can. I mean, he can stand his own. I mean, there was a reason that he is who he is. But we, like you said, we get a little bit more of what's really going on. Why they want to tear down the apartments, and going through and kind of figuring out like we need to take them down. Like, and the idea like, well, there was the lease owner, and now it's like there's an application, but it's just, especially when the bros Drexy Mafia start going after the tenants, that's when Clint's like, you can come after me all you want. Once you start going after my people and you've already taken out grills, you're going down.
Yeah, and I like how it kind of just came down to real estate. They had whoever's in front of the tracksuits, above the tracksuits, had basically bought up like all the land around. They said 3 blocks in every direction, and except for Clint's building. And
Yep.
one way or the other, and they come to the conclusion that he's not the legal owner of it, so they can go in and take it over.
Yeah, and then he has this sudden realization at the end, like, how did they get in there when I had people looking out their windows, watching the bottom of the building, and they said, "Oh no." They're still inside. They were let in at that point, and he's running down, running down, making sure people are there, and sees no one there, and then there's Clown hiding behind it. Clown takes out the gun and shoots Clint, shoots him basically through the ear, and shoots his brother. So that's where we left off.
And that's where I was hoping to pick up with, but no, we didn't.
Nope. No, we gotta head to California and go back to Kate on another little detective mission. And this is fun. It fits Kate's personality. Like, she's generally trying to help people.
Yeah, she is. And again, it's not super fair just because this is the one that followed up the other one, but it is not a bad issue. Like, I really don't have a lot of super negatives about it. It didn't grab me in the same way.
Yeah, no, it's just her again. She had her first stint trying to do right with the two the couple trying to get married with the flowers and the lilies and the orchids, and this one is about like a down and out, basically older famous singer that's being basically kind of held against his will, and supposedly his brother's releasing his stuff without his permission, and it just becomes kind of a back and forth. But I mean, there's a nice thing at the end when he kind of gets control of his life, the singer, and kind of dedicates, a song to her. But there's someone in the background trying to ruin that.
There is someone who just walks up and says, "Hey, I found you," and then disappears. And it's like, well, okay, who are we talking about here? And I did have to laugh when the guy was like, "Oh, I got to dedicate this to my favorite superhero in purple, the Hulk."
Yes. It's like, oh, it's okay. I can deal with that. But it's just her trying to strike out on her own and trying to get out of quote unquote Hawkeye's shadow and become the Hawkeye of her own. So
and get a couple of smaller cases under her belt to help build up some experience on her own.
Yep. So so we're getting closer. We got, again, we got 22 issues, but so we will head into issue 17 and 17 and 18 next week. So we got next week with the week after. So we got 3 more weeks. So we're gonna have to start putting out there, thinking about our listener poll coming up to vote on our next comic book club. So all right. So our Hawkeye centric episode is at an end. And man, you guys are getting a double dose of Marvel Alliance. Remember a couple weeks ago, we gave you 4 episodes in a week's time.
Yeah, not quite that much this time.
Not quite much, but still. But yeah, we're so excited to kind of dive into Spider-Man No Way Home, but we're also excited for how we're going to bring Hawkeye to a conclusion. And as we go into, we close out 2021 for Marvel, we don't know what the release date of our next Disney Plus show.
Nope. As of right now, the next thing with a confirmed date is Doctor Strange in May, right?
Yep.
So,
and we've heard rumors that maybe instead of She-Hulk, it's going to be Moon Knight. That's a lot further along in post-production. That will get a sooner release date. So we'll just have to see.
I mean, that to me that would make sense. It feels like
I take it back. No, you forgot about the hierarchy in the MCU being changed. You forgot
right. The legend,
the
legend that is Morbius. You're absolutely right. Oh my gosh, Jared Leto, forgive me for such blasphemy.
Because again, we're looking at the new leader of the Avengers with this guy. Watch out, Steve Rogers. Step aside, Iron Man.
Something like that. Yeah. Morbius the musical coming your way in about 10 years.
Exactly. So, but all right. So again, we want to thank our sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. Again, use that code Marvel GUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. Again, thank you for being a sponsor. Thank you for being our official sponsor for Marvel Alliance. Brent, tell people how they can follow you and plug your show.
Yeah. Brentech Prime on Twitter and TikTok, and other show Fans Without Borders. We'll be doing a Spider-Man review, and then I also want to mention I was asked to help out with Beer with Geeks, and so we'll be doing a Spider-Man review that I'll be participating in there as well, which will be a lot of fun because while I have podcasted with those guys on Supergirl TV Talk, this will be my first time on their other show, Beer with Geeks. So look for that in the next few weeks.
3 reviews of
In
Spider-Man.
5 days. Yep.
5 days. Woo.
But Marvel Alliance is first.
Yes, we are first. And hey, talk about with Fans Without Borders. You're doing your annual
Unpopular opinions. Yep. The first weekend of January, whatever that Sunday is, we will be recording our 5th annual Unpopular Opinions episode. Feel free to send a couple in to me, Brentech Prime again on Twitter. If you have an unpopular opinion, it doesn't have to be any specific topic, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, whatever. Just whatever you want. And even if it's something totally different, that's fine. We'll read it on the show. You know, if you got 2 or 3, that's cool too. Send them in. It is always a fun episode.
It is. I've already submitted mine at that point.
You were the first submission.
Well, it came to my mind, and it definitely, in my opinion, is somewhat of a controversial one. It's always been a debate. So I've taken my slight line in the sand on that one, but I have a caveat to it. But
there you go.
Looking forward to that episode. It's always a good time. But yeah, so check that out. You know, look forward to hear what Ray has to say about No Way Home.
Indeed.
So.
Yep.
But all right, so yeah, you can follow this podcast on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. Again, my other show, World's Finest True Believers. You can follow that at Finest Believers. New episode dropping this coming Monday. You can email the show at Marvel Alliance Podcast at gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network at GWay Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions. As of the end of No Way Home, we will start posting the Factor Fictions. We will do that with our next Factor Fictions at that point and taking back listener questions. So we first, again, thank you listeners for bearing with us. Thank you for at least honoring our request to, keep the spoilers out of it. We really appreciate it. And, really, really want to thank you. So those will be coming back as of next week. And continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed and the GUA network feed on Apple Podcasts, or whatever platform of choice may be. Thank you all for listening. Again, no live chat this week, but as always, we want to thank our constant live listeners whenever they're there. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. Well, Brent, we said no news. The easy time when we have these post-credit weeks when we're not covering news because of a movie review. Well, why not talk a little news as our post-credits? Something simple, something interesting, something, this show's kind of talked about since it kind of the idea broke of this idea. It's coming from Screen Geek. Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger returns in surprising way for Black Panther 2. So they claim this as an exclusive. Now, I think Fandom Wire had this as their own exclusive about the idea of him coming back. And I think what Screen Geek is kind of talking about is what specifically that role will be. And they've been told that Michael B. Jordan will return as Killmonger in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and that he will be a mentor to a young hero. And the return will take place on the ancestral plane. So what do you feel about that idea?
I like it a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense to have him there because that's where the kings of Wakanda went. That's where the Black Panthers of Wakanda went. And rightly or wrongly, he at least temporarily assumed those roles. And are you going to say no if you can get Michael B. Jordan to come back? Yeah, if you make terrible decisions, I guess. But no, it's awesome. It's great. And I know there's some people who wanted him to come back and become the new Black Panther. I'm not sure how that would work, but
multiverse.
This multiverse. Yeah, What If gave us one. It was kind of bad, but maybe not as, I don't know. But regardless, this to me is a way that fits really well with at least the established parameters of the movie, of that corner of the universe so far.
Oh yeah, it does make sense. The quote unquote the question is who this young hero is. Letitia Wright's character Shuri picking up, as we're all kind of expecting, picking up the Black Panther mantle. We heard the rumor that Black Panther T'Challa's young son will be in this. I don't foresee necessarily that, but I do like it's interesting in the fact that how when we saw Killmonger when he visits the ancestral plane and how he visits his father and sees it in a different way, but then seeing him on the ancestral plane with the other former kings and Black Panthers is going to be very interesting just because of what happened in Black Panther, the first one,
Yeah.
and what advice can it, because again, he's definitely, if not my top favorite, he's definitely right up there with it as my favorite villain in the MCU because I don't view him as a villain. He's purely also an antagonist in the sense of, oh no, I take, he's a villain, but he's a complicated one in the sense that he has a real valid point about
Sure.
what he's done. Now, are his methods, how he does it, correct? No, not in my opinion, but he has a very, very strong case to make, and it's not without some merit.
Yeah. I mean, part of me wonders how I'd feel about this news if Chadwick Boseman was still with us,
Mhm.
but with him not, it would be nice to have, yet another tie to the first movie, and such a strong and brilliant actor. I mean, I like it. I like the news
Yeah.
overall. I hope it's true.
Yeah, apparently, when he was asked about a potential return as recently as earlier this year, he was asked to rate that possibility from 1 to 10. He said, "I'm gonna go with a solid 2. I didn't wanna go with 0. Never say never. I can't predict the future." We do know people lie, actors lie, continue to lie, at that point, so we'll take that with a grain of salt. Currently, Wakanda Forever is on a production hiatus due to Letitia Wright's, suffering injuries, from a stunt back in August due to so they're set to resume back in January, and, we'll just have to see. It's gonna be interesting. I Michael B. Jordan should be back in this movie in some way, shape, or form. Too good of a character, too good of an actor to just kinda say goodbye forever. So,
Agreed.
yep.
Cosign.
So, we will have to see, but, y'all will be listening to this, Friday morning, and we'll be coming at you later that night and back in your audio feeds on Saturday morning. So, for those of you that are watching No Way Home, Brent and I are as excited as ever. Again, keep those. Don't let your speculation become expectations. But I hope you all have a great time. Enjoy the movie. I know we both are, and we will see you real soon. See you later.
My Peter sense is tingling.
Oh, no, but my Spidey sense is really out there. So